Today on the agenda, Stellantis puts 60 billion euros on the table and decides that DS and Lancia don't really exist anymore. Peugeot is looking for its future high-end models directly in China. Alfa Romeo gets 20 seconds of PowerPoint to sum up its future with the new Giulietta. Fiat releases an SUV called Grizzly, as well as the first images of the Pandina. And it's official, the Citroën 2CV is making its big comeback. Before starting this video, many of you have asked for it. Shifter Octane is now available on all podcast platforms. From Apple Podcasts to Spotify and Deezer, you'll find all the links below the video in the description and in a pinned comment. Stellantis has just announced its big plan for the coming years, and there are going to be a lot of changes. Antonio Filosa, the new boss, has just unveiled his battle plan, simply called Fast Lane 2030. The program is a $60 billion investment over 5 years. $60 billion is the GDP of Croatia, but the goal is simple: 60 new models, 50 facelifts, and above all, limiting the damage. Behind these staggering numbers lies a real bloodbath. Managing 14 brands had become a logistical nightmare, so Filosa made some tough decisions. The big winners, those who will receive 70% of the investments, are the global pillars. Jeep, Ram, Fiat, and our own Peugeot. They will receive new models and advanced technologies. Others like Chrysler, Dodge, Citroën, Opel, and Alfa Romeo are now regional brands and must adapt leftover models from their larger siblings. Even worse, DS automobiles and Lancia are simply put under supervision. DS is absorbed by Citroën, and Lancia is swallowed up by Fiat. Only Maserati seems to have been granted a reprieve. The brand with the trident, whose Modena factory operates at the dizzying pace of 5 cars per day, is going to receive 2 new models in the E segment, probably a Quattroporte and a Levante. But you can tell that the passion is no longer really there. Maserati's future will be decided in December 2026. How do you fund this delusions of grandeur? That's where things get interesting, or maybe frightening, depending on your view. Stellantis is going to open its doors wide to the Middle Kingdom. We already knew about the ties with Leapmotor, which will assemble its SUVs in Spain, but Filosa is going even further. He's teaming up with the giant Dongfeng to assemble Chinese models directly in France at the Rennes factory. But the real stroke of genius is the deliberate return of the combustion engine. The all-electric dogma is over. Out of 60 new models, only 29 will be electric. The rest will be hybrid and combustion-powered models. 50% of the volumes will use platforms capable of accommodating a combustion engine. And for that, Filosa is unveiling a secret weapon, the Stella 1 platform, an ultra-modular base that will replace 5 existing platforms. It will be able to do everything, from city cars to large SUVs, from electric to hybrid. It's like a Swiss Army knife for automobiles, designed to reduce costs by 20% and speed up development to 24 months. This is the platform on which we'll see the future. iCar, an electric car under 15,000 euros, and the much-anticipated return of the Citroën 2CV. Finally, to avoid falling behind Tesla, Stellantis is teaming up with a British startup Wave and the giant Qualcomm to develop Level 2++ autonomous driving, plus an AI capable of learning to drive on its own without mapping to handle long trips on highways and in the city. Deployment is planned for 2028, starting in the United States. The alliances continue as Stellantis recently signed a memorandum of understanding with Jaguar Land Rover. Nothing is certain yet, but Stellantis is fighting for its survival, all or nothing. A $60 billion plan, an unnatural alliance with the Chinese, an open return to combustion engines, and a ruthless purge of its European brands. It's bold and brutal, but it's unclear if customers will follow. In Stellantis' new plan, Peugeot is one of the favorites. The Lion has become one of the group's 4 strategic brands. So what's Sochaux preparing for us by 2030? 11 models. Let's start at the bottom of the range, where the big sales volumes are. In 2027, the 208 and the 2008. These 2 will be exclusively electric. They will launch the new Stella 1 platform, designed for multiple energy types, but for our French cars, it will focus on electric power. The new 208, previewed by the Polygon concept, will bring us an innovation that leaves us puzzled: steer-by-wire steering. There's no physical steering column now, a computer controls steering. The steering wheel will become a rectangular hypersquare instead of a traditional wheel. But the real surprise of this plan is the high-end segment. Do you remember the 508? Well, Peugeot doesn't plan to abandon the D segment. At the last Beijing Motor Show, Peugeot presented two concepts, Concept 6 and Concept 8. And surprise, one of them, a magnificent electric shooting brake, could very well arrive in Europe. But it won't be designed in Sochaux. It will be based on a Dongfeng platform, Stellantis' Chinese partner. Yes, you heard that right. The future French high-end model will be largely Chinese. That being said, faced with the Asian onslaught, it might be the only solution to offer a competitive vehicle. Between these two extremes, the lineup will expand. The 308 will have a successor, still as a sedan and a wagon, and still on the famous Estella 1 platform. And to fill the gap between the 2008 and the 3008 Peugeot is going to come up with an all-new SUV. But what they're going to call it, that's a big question. But in summary, Peugeot's plan is pretty clear. Massive electrification, extreme streamlining with the Estella 1 platform, and a chilling pragmatism by partnering with the Chinese for the high-end segment. The Lion wants to show its teeth, but will do so quietly on battery power, with a steering wheel resembling a PlayStation controller. But that's the future, apparently. Speaking of which, let's talk about the future of Alfa Romeo, the brand that has made the hearts of millions of enthusiasts beat faster, the one that makes you forgive a squeaky dashboard just for the sound of the engine. Well, Stellantis just unveiled its strategic plan for the brand. We were expecting fireworks, and we got 20 seconds of PowerPoint. Because yes, it's official. Alfa Romeo is now just a regional brand in the Stellantis galaxy. So what does this plan have in store for us until 2030? Well, not much, really. The product plan fits on a sticky note, 5 models, the Junior, the Tonale, the Stelvio, the Giulia, and a newcomer. Let's start with the newcomer because that's the only real announcement. By 2027, Alfa Romeo will bring out a new SUV in the C segment. Yes, another SUV. This model might take on the legendary name Giulietta or Alfetta, although that's not decided yet, and it will slot in between the Junior and the Tonale. Aesthetically, the sketches revealed show a muscular car with the famous Alfa grille, very sculpted, and headlights reduced to simple slits. It's aggressive, it's modern, and honestly, it looks much more like an Alfa Romeo than the Junior. This new toy will be based on the group's Estella 1 platform, a multi-energy base that will accommodate hybrid and electric powertrains. It will use steer-by-wire, so the steering wheel isn't mechanically connected to the wheels. But the real letdown of this presentation is what wasn't said. The replacements for Giulia and Stelvio were missing. Originally scheduled for 2028, these new generations were supposed to be exclusively electric. But faced with the slowdown in the EV market, Stellantis panicked, hit the brakes, and sent the engineers back to the drawing board to include combustion engines. As a result, there won't be any new Giulia or new Stelvio before 2030, apparently. Fortunately, in a burst of mercy, Alfa Romeo extended the life of the current models. The Giulia and the Stelvio, with their sublime quadrifoglio version, powered by the 2.9-liter V6 engine with 520 horsepower, will remain in the European lineup until 2027. As for the rest, the Tonale will quietly finish its career just as it started, and the Junior will continue to carry sales on its small shoulders. By the way, with more than 60,000 orders since its launch, it's the one saving the day. Alfa Romeo is therefore refocusing on what sells in Europe, small SUVs. But to avoid completely killing the myth, Stellantis mentioned a custom project developed by the Fioristeria workshop. After the magnificent 33 Stradale sold at a premium price, we're being promised a new supercar in a very limited edition, perhaps inspired by the legendary Montreal from the 1970s. It's great for the 30 billionaires who will be able to afford it, but for ordinary people it's just smoke and mirrors. There will also be changes at Fiat. Stellantis has decided through its major strategic plan, Fastlane 2030, to move Fiat into the top tier. No more playing a minor role, the Turin brand is now one of the group's 4 global brands. Its mission is to flood Europe and the world with affordable electric cars, and they're not holding back. Fiat wants to cover absolutely all the popular segments. Olivier François, the head of the brand, has a very clear ambition to make Fiat the driving force behind Stellantis' recovery in Europe. Let's start with what Fiat does best: small, urban vehicles. You know the Topolino, that electric quadricycle you can drive without a license. Well, Fiat is going to give it a big brother, the Quattrolino. As its name subtly suggests, it will have 4 seats. It looks like a small van on wheels, is vaguely inspired by the legendary Fiat 600 Multipla from the 1950s, and will also not require a license. There's also a 3-wheeled vehicle called Tris in the small vehicle category. But let's take it up a notch. Fiat wants to make a big impact in the electric car category, the one that requires a driver's license. By 2028, we'll get an all-new electric Pandina from the iCar project. The concept unveiled looks like a Lego cube drawn by a 5-year-old with headlights sticking out of the hood. It's divisive for sure, but the real selling point lies elsewhere. Fiat promises a starting price under 15,000 euros. It's exactly the same strategy as for the upcoming electric Citroën 2CV. And to keep this price, Fiat will cut back on everything: a tiny battery, minimal equipment, and extremely streamlined production at its factory in Italy. Meanwhile, the current Fiat 500, which had been sitting in dealerships due to its expensive electric version, is getting a new lease on life. The Mirafiori factory is reviving with the hybrid 500, increasing industrial activity by 40%. This proves that a classic combustion engine with a timing chain still reassures customers. But Fiat's real heavy hitter, the one that's supposed to make Dacia tremble, is the Grizzly family. The Grizzly is a compact SUV that shares its internals with the Citroën C3 Aircross and the Opel Frontera. It will be manufactured in Morocco and sold starting at around 25,000 euros. And because one Grizzly isn't enough, Fiat is offering us 2. You will have the choice between a classic, boxy family version that can accommodate up to 7 people and a fastback version with a sloping roof like a coupe. Under the hood, you'll find gasoline engines, hybrids with 110 or 145 horsepower, and of course electric versions with 44 or 52 kilowatt-hour batteries. The range is around 300 to 400 kilometers. This Grizzly will support the larger model, which is still struggling a bit to find its audience. And finally, the model we've all been waiting for, the 2CV, is back, and this time it runs on batteries. For decades, the return of the 2CV was like the Loch Ness monster of the French automotive industry. People talked about it. There were vague concept cars, but nothing ever came out of the factories. But now, Xavier Chardon, the head of Citroën, has dropped the bombshell. Yes, the 2CV is back. So why now? It's simple. Renault is scoring a massive hit with its new R5 and Twingo. Nostalgia sells, that's a fact. Citroën, which until now had refused to fully embrace the neo-retro trend, remember the first C3S that vaguely hinted at the 2CV but never really owned it? Well, the brand has finally given in. And honestly, they would have been wrong not to. The new 2CV will arrive in 2028. It will be fully electric and manufactured in Italy, alongside its cousin, the future Fiat Pandina. But the real revolution isn't its engine, it's the price. Citroën promises a price below the psychological threshold of 15,000 euros, a low price made possible thanks to the European Union, which is creating a new category of vehicles called M1E. These are electric cars under 4.2 meters designed for the city, with slightly relaxed safety standards, driving aids reduced to the bare minimum, and small capacity batteries. Visually, what will it look like? Well, the teaser shows a snail-shaped silhouette with a rounded hood, prominent fenders, and round headlights perched on the nose. It's undeniably a Deux Chevaux, but modernized with influences taken from the recent and electric boxy Iolo concept. A concept car will be fully unveiled at the Paris Motor Show next October. But behind this marketing masterstroke, there's a colossal industrial challenge. Stellantis must show it's still possible to make a popular, profitable electric car in Europe as low-cost Chinese models arrive. Ironically, Citroën, relegated to the status of a regional brand within the group, finds itself with the toughest mission: saving Europe from the Asian invasion with a car inspired by the post-war era. It remains to be seen if the charm will work as well as it did with the 5 million units sold between 1948 and 1990. We'll have the answer in 2028 when it starts arriving at dealerships. Thank you all for watching this new video. Feel free to subscribe and turn on the notification bell to make sure you don't miss anything. See you.